Hello and welcome to the International Women's Talmud Day, sponsored by Jofa, UK. My name is Michal Kahana. I'm the Rosh Kehillah at Prospect Heights Shul, Brooklyn, New York, and a student at Yeshivat Maharat. Today is a beautiful spring day here where you can hear people walking, talking, children playing outside after the long winter. So let's enjoy this afternoon, evening, and add to it a story from the Gemara. And the story is a long-time favorite of mine. It's in the Babylonian Talmud, in Masechet and Tractate Baba Kama, page 117a. We call the session Between Jerusalem and Babylon, although at the time the story takes place, it's more between Tiberias, Tveria, and Bavel. Tveria at the time was the center of learning. And what we're looking at is the relationship between Israel and diaspora. We're doing that by reading a story from long ago and far away. But what do we know? Maybe there's a few hints here and there from the story to our own time as well. So without further ado, let's begin. We will read the story once, what we call Kriya Rishona, a first read, in the Aramaic with a quick translation, and then especially hope that during the reading it will help us think about some questions, and we might get a face that thinks, what did it just say? And that's all right. We'll go back and look at it again, and then even add a poem from Yehuda Amichai at the end that maybe will also shed some light on that old Talmudic story. I have in front of me both the Aramaic, the Hebrew, and the English, and between it all, hopefully we can at least figure out the gist of it. All right. Baba Kama 117a. Hahu Gavra dhave bai achwe ativna dechavrei. There was a man that wanted to show to the non-Jews his friend's straw. He wanted to turn them in so they will be confiscated by the non-Jews. בא לפני עתה לקמי דרב. אמר לו, לא תחווה ולא תחווה. This man came before Rav, one of our great rabbis in Bavel. Rav said to him, don't show and don't show. Amar lo, machvina ve'machvina. The man said to him, oh, I will show and I will show. Yativ Rav Kahana kamei derav. Rav Kahana, who is a student of Rav, comes and sits before him. Tan tan tan. Shmat elekue minhe. He broke the man's neck, and the man died. It's a way of telling us he killed the guy. Kri Rav Alehu. Rav says to Rav Kahana a pasuk, a verse from Yeshayahu 51:20. Banaich ulfu shachvu berosh kol chutzot ketoa michmar. The pasuk from Isaiah that Rav says to Rav Kahana is, and let me get the translation more precise. He says, your sons have fainted. They lie at the heads of all the streets as a wild bull in a net. What? He continues and explains, מה התואר הזה, כיוון שנפל במחמר, אין מרחמים עליו. אף ממון של ישראל, כיוון שנפל בידי עובדי כוכבים, אין מרחמים עליו. I want to tell you that this is the opening to the story, but it's not the most important piece in the story. So while it's going to be a little bit strange, and we're going to go back and look at it again a little bit slower, it is not the main point in the story. What Rav is saying about this is just like an ox who falls in a hunter's net, there is no mercy on him anymore. He's wounded and useless to us. So it is with the money or property of the Jewish people. Once it falls in the hands of the idolaters, there's no mercy on them. Amar lo Rav, Rav said to his student, Kahana, Ada itna havu parsei delakap de shfichut damim. Until now, the Persians were here, and they really didn't care that much about murder. If one of us killed each other, not a big deal. V'hashta ika yevane dekapdu shfichut damim. And now we have the Greeks who do care. Ve'imre mardin, they are going to be looking for a murderer. Kum sak le'ar adi Israel. Ve'kabil alech delo takshi li-Rabbi Yochanan sheva shnin. You know what? Go travel to the land of Israel, but do accept upon yourself that you are not going to ask Rabbi Yochanan any questions for 7 years. Azil. Ashkeche leResh Lakish, diati v'kamesayim metivta diyoma leRabanan. He went, and he happened to run into Resh Lakish, who was sitting and finishing his studies of that day, which he taught to the sages. Amar lahu, Resh Lakish heicha. He said, where is Resh Lakish? Amulei, amai? They said, why do you want to know where he is? Amar lahu, hai kushya v'hai kushya, v'hai piruka v'hai piruka. He said to them, that's a question and that's a question, and that's how we can take it apart, and that's how we can take it apart. Remember? We'll come back. Amru leile Resh Lakish. They told Resh Lakish about this visitor. Azal Resh Lakish. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan. Resh Lakish went to Rabbi Yochanan and told him, Ari ala mi Bavel. La'ayen mar b'metivta lemachar. Resh Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan in a very nice way. He says to him, a lion has come from Babylon. I suggest you review the session you're planning to teach tomorrow. Lemachar, otvei badra kama de Rabbi Yochanan. The next day, in the Bet Midrash, they set Rav Kahana in the front row, right under Rabbi Yochanan. Amar shmatata velo akshay, shmatata velo akshay. Rabbi Yochanan taught a halacha. Rav Kahana said nothing. Rabbi Yochanan taught another halacha, and Rav Kahana again said nothing. Anchete achorei sheva darei ad otvei batra. They moved him 7 rows back until he sat in the very last row. Rav Kahana. Amar lo Rabbi Yochanan leResh Lakish, Ari she'amarta na'asa shu'al. Rabbi Yochanan, after the class, goes to Resh Lakish, and he says to him, that lion you mentioned became a fox. Amar, Kahana said to himself, Amar, Yehe ha'ava dehani sheva darei, lehavi chiluf sheva shnin de'amar li Rav. May it be that those 7 years, that the 7 rows that I was just placed back, those will be a substitute to my 7 years that Rav told me. Kam akrei, he got up on his legs. Amar li, nehadar mar bereisha. Rav Kahana said to Rabbi Yochanan, could you please repeat that lesson again? Amar shmatata ve'akshay, ukmei padre kama. He asked, Rabbi Yochanan taught a halacha, Rav Kahana asked him a question, and so he was moved to the front row. Amar shmatata ve'akshay, still he continued. Rabbi Yochanan was teaching, and Rav Kahana asked him a difficult question. Rabbi Yochanan Haviyativ Asheva Bastriki. Rabbi Yochanan was sitting on 7 pillows. Shalfelei Chada Bastriki mitutei. They pulled out one of the pillows from underneath him. Amar shmatata va'akshilei. Still, Rabbi Yochanan was teaching, and Rav Kahana was asking difficult questions which Rabbi Yochanan could not ask him. Ad shalfelei kulhu bastrake mitutei adiyativ al-ar'a. Until they pulled all the pillows from underneath Rabbi Yochanan, and he was sitting on the ground. Rabbi Yochanan gavra saba hava umasriche gabinhei. Rabbi Yochanan was an old man, and his eyelids were drooping. Amar lehu, dlu li enai va'achzei. Pick up my eyelids so that I can see this man that asked me all these questions. Dalulei b'mikchalta de kaspa. Chaza de parte siftei. So Rabbi Yochanan's students took a very gentle silver brush or like a pick, and lifted up his eyelids so he could see, who's this guest, who's this person that came to the yeshiva. And when he saw Rabbi Yochanan, saw Rav Kahana, he saw that his lips are parted. Savar achuch kemachayech bei. He thought Rabbi Yochanan thought about Rav Kahana, that Rav Kahana has this smile, but this like, as if he's laughing at him, as if Rav Kahana is mocking Rabbi Yochanan. Chalash date v'nach nafshei. Rabbi Yochanan felt sadness, and through that sadness, or through that being offended, Rav Kahana died. His soul rested, his soul departed. Lemachar, next day, Amar lehu Rabbi Yochanan lerabanan, chazitu lebabla? Rabbi Yochanan said to the sages around him, did you see that Babylonian? Hey Avid, what was that like expression he had of them? What did he do? Amule, darche hachi. They said to him, that's how he looks. Rabbi Yochanan must have not felt so good about this. A person's soul just departed due to his powers. Al legabei me'arata. He went to the cave where Rav Kahana was laid to rest. Chaza dehava hadra le'achna. That cave, the door had a lock on the cave, and that lock was circled with a snake, and the snake was holding its tail in his mouth. And so the entrance to the cave was locked. Amarlo, Rabbi Yochanan says to the snake, Achna, achna, snake. Ptach pumaych v'yikanes harav etzel talmid. Open your mouth and let the master come and see his student. Velo patach, the snake did not open. Yikanes chaver etzel chaver. Let a friend come see his friend. Okay, fine, maybe I'm not the teacher and he's not the student, but let friend come see each other. Velo patach. Yikanes talmid etzel harav. Patach le. Let the student come and see the master. By rachme ve'ukme. Rabbi Yochanan, mercy or maybe love. Sometimes rachme in the Gemara is love. Arose, and Rav Kahana woke up. Ve'amar lo. Rabbi Yochanan says to Rav Kahana, Ihave yadana dedarche demar hachilochal shadati. Had I only known that this expression of yours, that's the way that you behave, my mind would have been at ease. And the story continues. As I mentioned to you, I did not bring the end of the story because the end, a little predictable. Rabbi Yochanan invites Rav Kahana to come to the Bet Midrash with them. And Rav Kahana says, I've had enough with your Bet Midrash. I don't think I want to come there if every time we disagree you're going to kill me. And Rabbi Yochanan says, not going to happen again. And they learn together, and they discover that Rav Kahana's wisdom is so much greater, and they live happily ever after. The end is a little bias. We find the story in the Babylonian Talmud, and somehow stories that appear in the Babylonian Talmud end with a theme that the sages from Bavel are so much wiser, and all those sages in Eretz Israel, the provincial, kind of almost desolate land, should learn from the great people of Bavel. Not that there were no great people in Bavel, God forbid, I am not suggesting that in the least. But sometimes same stories can be read through a different lens, with a different light, in the two different Talmudim, Babylonian and Yerushalayim. Before we get into that, let's read the story again and unpack some of the strange things that we just saw in it. So we saw a man, presumably a Jew, who wanted to tattletale on another man. What is the din? What is the judgment for such a person? Such a person in our tradition is considered a rodef. He's a pursuer. He's trying to kill another Jew. He wants to get someone else in so much trouble that his life is going to be in danger. Notice that when Rav Kahana breaks his neck or in one way or another kills him, Rav, who is his teacher and the authority in those days in Bavel, does not say to him, "Oh my God, what did you do? That was just awful. You need to do teshuvah." But rather he says, "I have no dispute over your act, but you are going to get in trouble. For your safety, I suggest you go to the land of Israel." I find this fascinating, interesting, coincidental, and maybe a little bit sad that so often we, the Jewish people, have gone to the land of Israel when we were in some kind of a trouble, as opposed to just going because we should be there, or we love it, or it's beautiful. But oftentimes we go there because we're in some trouble with the local authorities, and lo and behold, 15, 16, 17, this would be 1700 years ago, the situation was not that different. Why is Rav telling Rav Kahana not to cause any trouble to Rabbi Yochanan, not to ask any kushiyot? Presumably, we just saw that Rav Kahana does whatever he wants. He knows the halacha and he just acts. Rav is asking his student, Rav Kahana, to be more respectful with Rabbi Yochanan and just sit and listen to his class with utmost respect. Let's continue. When Rav Kahana gets to the yeshiva looking for Rabbi Yochanan, he finds not Rabbi Yochanan right away, but Resh Lakish. Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, as we know, are brothers-in-law. Their initial meeting was in the Jordan River. Rabbi Yochanan was bathing. Resh Lakish, who, don't remind him of his past, but used to be a robber, saw Rabbi Yochanan, was incredibly impressed with his beauty, and Rabbi Yochanan was incredibly impressed with Resh Lakish's strength and determination. Rabbi Yochanan says to Resh Lakish, "If you only apply such strength and vigor to learning Torah, you'd be amazing." To which Resh Lakish, in his witty way, says to Rabbi Yochanan, "If there was only a way to apply your beauty to a woman, that would be amazing." Well, Rabbi Yochanan says to him, "I do have a sister, and if you marry her, you can be my co-student partner in learning." And this is what they went on doing. They argue a lot, but their arguments are out of that respect we were just looking for, a sort of a love, appreciation for each other, and strengthening each other's viewpoints. All right, so Rav Kahana runs into Resh Lakish as he's finishing his day's learning, and not having Facebook or knowing what people looked like back then, he's asking him, "Where is Resh Lakish?" To which the students respond in a question. "Why? What do you want to know? For what do you need him?" And Rav Kahana, in his witty way, doesn't say, "Hey, I've come here to learn or something, or I've come to hide, or whatever is going on." He says, "Well, yeah, that's a question and that's a question." Or alternatively, he says, "Here, let me show you some questions and let me show you some answers," which in turn impresses the students of Rabbi Yochanan's yeshiva with Rav Kahana's learning. Resh Lakish's comment to Rabbi Yochanan, very friendly and very straightforward, saying, "Ari alami Bavel," a lion is coming up from Babylon. Do take a look at tomorrow's learning, from which we learn that sometimes they didn't check tomorrow's learning in advance and they just studied it with the students. But when there was a guest, no different than today, they wanted to be ready. Initially, as we saw, Rav Kahana is sitting in the front row, very respectful. At the time in the Bet Midrash, the smart students would be in the front and the less smart students would be in the way back. We might recall it from another Agadata about Moshe going to Rabbi Akiva's Bet Midrash and sitting in the way back, having no idea what's going on. The people in Tveria and Rabbi Yochanan's yeshiva gave Rav Kahana the kavod, the respect, and let him sit in the front row. But since he was quiet and didn't engage with the teacher, slowly he moved to the very back row. And to which he says to himself, first, Rabbi Yochanan says to Resh Lakish in their witty kind of way, says, that lion, you mentioned the lion, he's a fox. He's not like really, wow, anything to talk about. And Rav Kahana says, I can't sit here 7 years and not ask any questions. I'm just gonna die. Maybe those 7 rows that I went backwards are going to be like those 7 years that I was supposed to wait. So he got up and asked the questions. Notice the repetition of 7. 7 is a fabulous number in our tradition. 8, shmone, comes from shamin, fat, and shemen, oil, and the shmonat yemei Chanukah, 8 days of Chanukah. 8 is always a little extra, but 7, shavua, a week, the Sheva Brachot, the 7 days of Shiva, and we'll see another imagery of that. The 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot, 7 times 7 plus 1, 7 years of Shemitah. Savea, like Sheva, same letters, to be satiated. 7 by the Maharal is just right, just the right amount. And so we see Rav Kahana coming forward, the 7 rows, and Rabbi Yochanan going down 7 pillows until he sits on the ground. A very sad description, if you will, that's sitting on the ground. And Rabbi Yochanan is old. And again, this picture of his student lifting up his eyelids so he can see better with a silver brush, ever so gently. But then Rabbi Yochanan making an assumption about the Babylonian. Oh yeah, I saw his face. Therefore, because I saw his smile, and because I know what that smile means, I know what he was thinking, and therefore he was thinking bad things about me. And because of all those bad thoughts, and Rabbi Yochanan is a powerful man, Rav Kahana's soul just rests or departs. Notice the relationship. Again, let us not forget we're reading the Talmud Bavli and not the Yerushalayim about this incident, which I don't have for us, but I'll tell you about another one. Asking the snake to come in, initially as the Rav to the student, the higher one in that hierarchy, and not allowed an entrance. As an equal, also not, unless he wants to come as a student who comes to learn at his rabbi. I love the last line of that part that I brought, and not to go all the way to the end and show how the Babylonians are so much smarter and righter and where the authority is. Again, a repeated theme in the Babylonian Talmud. I love Rabbi Yochanan admitting and saying, if I only knew that that's the way his face is, that that's the way he looks, my mind wouldn't have been so quick to judge. Think about all the times that we look at other people, that we hear other people saying something, and we already immediately know what they think, where they come from, why they said it, make all our conclusions and jump with it forward. That is maybe something that maybe still exists to this very day, when among us, among the Jewish people that spread around in the diaspora, and sometimes between diaspora and Israel, we make decisions about each other without really stopping to listen, without really checking if the assumptions we made are correct. I often say, people say to me, you can hear from my accent, I was born and raised in Israel. People say to me things like, oh, you're Israeli, therefore, fill in the blank. Therefore, I can tell you anything because you're Israelis, you're very direct. Oh, you're a Sabra. I know. Oh, look at you. You have a long skirt. I know what your politics are. Oh, you have something in your hair. I'm sure that your politics are X, Y, Z. And I'm sure I've also done it to other people, where I made assumptions about what somebody else thinks because of the way they're dressed. I can actually recall one incident that comes to mind where I was in a taxi from some Jewish conference with a man dressed in very ultra-Orthodox garb. And I decided to be respectful and sit in the back and not exchange anything. But then when he was talking to the person next to him, he said something in very Sabra, very Israeli Hebrew that was not like for people from a religious background, and I could hear that. And I dared, and I asked him, where are you from? It turned out that he grew up not religious, just a few streets from my home, and went to the same school, became religious later in life, and later we were able to work together. But again, those quick assumptions that we make about each other. Interestingly, again, about this connection between Yerushalayim and Bavel, between Israel and diaspora in those days back then, we find a story at the end of Masechet Horayot, which we just read very recently, 2-3 weeks ago at Daf Yomi, where Rabbi Yehuda, Anasi, Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, the head of the Sanhedrin who writes the Mishnah, he asks his student, what kind of sacrifice will I have to bring? Like a Nasi? Like a prince, which is like a leader? Prince, not so good translation. Maybe like a king, like a leader of the people? After all, he's in the sea of the Sanhedrin. Or like a commoner. And there's different sacrifices for different places in that hierarchy. And this teacher says to him, you don't need to bring a sacrifice of the king. After all, your higher authority is in Bavel. Remember, we're reading that story in the Babylonian Talmud. In Yerushalayim, we'll read something different, and maybe we'll learn that together next time. Before we say goodbye, I want to share with you a poem from Yehuda Amichai. Yehuda Amichai was a fantastic poet. He comes from deep knowledge of Tanakh and Talmud, Bible and Talmud. And he fights, he struggles with God, with our tradition, with our place in the world. Nevertheless, his family is among those who leave Germany and come to Israel before the war. In fact, his name as a kid was not Yehuda Amichai. Yehuda, my people are alive, literally. But that's a name he took on when he came to Israel, fought in the War of Independence, and later lived in Jerusalem until he died, I believe, in the year 2000. The poem in the back of your packet. The second poem. We'll read it once in Hebrew, once in English. Apologies. All right. פעם ישבתי על מדרגות ליד שער במצודת דוד. Once upon a time, I sat on the steps near David's tower, and I'm sure many of you have been there, and you can quite picture how people walking from the shuk, from the market, on their way home, a little tired, with the bags of fresh produce from the market, would sit to rest and just look at and blend in the Jerusalem scenery. את שני הסלים הכבדים שמתי לידי. The two heavy baskets I put by my side. עמדה שם קבוצת תיירים סביב המדריך, ושימשתי להם נקודת ציון. A group of tourists was standing there around their guide, and I became their marker. אתם רואים את האיש הזה עם הסלים? קצת ימינה מראשו נמצאת קשת מן התקופה הרומית. קצת ימינה מראשו. Do you see that man over there with the baskets? Well, a little bit to the right of his head, there's an arch from the Roman era. Just a little bit right from his head. אבל הוא זז, הוא זז. But he moved, he moved. אמרתי בליבי, I said in my heart, הגאולה תבוא רק אם יגידו להם. גאולה, redemption, salvation will come only if they would be told. אתם רואים שם את הקשת מן התקופה הרומית? לא חשוב. Do you see the arch from the Roman era? It's not important. אבל לידה, קצת שמאלה ולמטה ממנה, יושב אדם שקנה פירות וירקות לביתו. It's not important, that Roman arch. But just next to it, a little bit to the left and a little bit under, sits a man who bought fruits and vegetables for his home. And that is, again, brings it back to us. When we look at things, what do we deem important and what do we deem less important? Are we able to switch our perspective? Are we able to look at things and see otherwise? Are we able to move to someone else's perspective and think, but what if it's really different? What if I'm missing something? Rabbi Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, student of the Baal Shem Tov, gives us a thought for closing. What is the world? The world is God, wrapped in ropes of God, so as to appear to be material. And who are we? We are God, wrapped in robes of God, and our task is to unwrap the robes and thus discover that we and the entire world are God. This is a lesson from Bereshit, chapter 1. We're all made in God's image. We read it in this week's Torah portion in the diaspora. Love your neighbor as yourself. Very bad translation. But ve'ahavta l'racha kamocha. Why? Why are we asked to give the same credit, the same feeling, transfer the same energy we're able to give to ourselves to another? Because of that triangle, us and the other and Hashem. We show our love to Hashem through our love to another and also through our love to ourselves. When we look at things, we can't always revive the dead like Rabbi Yochanan was able. But maybe we can take another minute and rethink our judgment to other people. Thank you for learning with me today and have a wonderful day.